Come on. Hello. Yes, we are live. I was late sending out the link to our guests, so they're going to be a little late, but that's my
it's
fault.
not their fault.
No, it was me. That's what happens when you get old. You start yelling at things.
Huh?
Huh? What? Larry and I have my husband and I have an ongoing joke thing about here we go.
There's Dolly.
Yay. And we have Dolly.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you today, hon?
Whew. It's been busy. I ordered a new bed, and it's a birch bed. In other words, no allergens, only natural materials and stuff. Right. And I have an over 100-year-old bed. So I had to order a special frame for the bottom part of it. And I had to put it together, and whoo, crazy.
Oh,
that was hard.
Yeah. Well, we are on the air. We are live.
Hi.
So, okay, here we got Preston. It was entirely my fault because
there's Preston.
My
We're on the air, Preston.
Kind of went south.
I was trying to warn people that we're on the air so somebody doesn't do something. Hello, Connor.
Did you show your new intro?
Oh, this is
no, we didn't use our intro this week.
Grandson.
Oh.
And
we didn't use our intro this week.
Okay.
Connor likes our intro. Connor likes our intro music. He was wondering if we used it this week, and I said no.
Well, now you have to play it for him later, so he can see it later. There you go.
Anyway, I must say that I can see the resemblance. I've been told that I look like Dolly.
Oh wow!
And, I can see it we got the glasses and the You have a chin, I have a chin. It's all there.
Well, you gotta bleach your hair, Melody.
And no.
Oh no, I don't do that. That's all me.
Yeah,
that's you.
That's my natural. I'm children of the corn. I have no color in my hair at all.
My dear late mother was a beautician, and I was her guinea pig.
Oh.
So I had my hair every color in the sun, and I know I will never. I admire people who bleach their hair because no, not again. Anyway, I was going to say I think the resemblance is probably because you're natively from Georgia.
Yes, I'm also a part Cherokee.
There you go.
My mother's father's mother was full-blooded Ostahatchee Cherokee.
Oh, there you go, Ostahatchee. Same with the family.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go.
We got some Apache in us too, though.
Yeah. Okay. I'm also Southeast Asian, and I'm Japanese and Korean as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I got a lot of Oriental blood in me. Yeah.
And Native American is Asian. It's Aboriginal Asian. So there you go. You're a healthy person. You have that good, hearty, mixed blood. That's what makes you healthier.
Yeah.
Anyway, Preston, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you.
He's just sitting there. I'm being ignored. Sorry,
no. You get women talking. You know how it is. Anyway, well, with all the UFO stuff going on right now, and I mean, it's been insane. And I'm not even talking about the balloons. I think we can dismiss the balloons, but there's been all of these sightings all over the place and very similar ones. I mean, have you been noticing that, or am I the only one watching this?
I'm gonna let Preston answer first.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, there's been sightings regularly for decades upon decades. We know that this goes back to before recorded history.
Yes.
Since 1947, it did really ramp up quite a bit. really to unprecedented levels.
Yep.
But as you know, things like Roswell happened, and more crash retrievals, and having interviewed a number of what I would call whistleblowers, it became clear that at some point we started to what we call reverse engineering this technology.
Yep.
And I started hearing more and more buzz, more and more talk about triangular craft, and people saying that these are not genuine ET craft. These are our own.
Right.
And after hearing that a number of times, I decided to go back through my own files and look at what I had. And I was shocked to see that I had very few of what I would call onboard experiences involving triangular craft. And that that was probably right. These were our own. And
well, it makes sense since Mark and I, our sighting was in Hesperia, near George Air Force Base. And we saw triangular craft. So
yeah, we do have this technology.
Yeah. Two. Yeah, I did.
They're called TR3Bs.
Yeah.
And they're matte black. And that's for stealth for them. They can ward off radar confirmation on them.
Yeah.
And
I live near Edwards Air Force Base now. And mainly because my husband worked, he retired in aircraft. So
that's cool.
Yeah, we're right here. So
well, he was at Skunk Works. He was in Skunk Works, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in Skunk Works. So he worked on those craft.
Yeah.
And but he he of course can't talk about any of that.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't even want to ask a question. I know. I have several issues with that as well. And
when I left
it to me.
Yeah.
When I left the B2 program, they tell you what you can and can't say.
Right. Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff I can talk about with the B2, but
the only thing I can talk about the B2, the only thing I can say about a B2 is I was on base, and I was told to report to the field, and I was picking people up, and I was parked. I have really pretty good security clearance, and I hear it before I see it. I was like, oh my God, I know what that is. I've only heard one other one in Miami. And everybody's like, oh man, it must be close. Listen to how loud it is. And I'm like, no, not yet. It's 5 or 10 minutes still out. And they say, how do you know that? And I said, because I think it's pretty big. And we waited 5 or 10 more minutes, and finally we sighted it. And it had to circle us twice. And everybody, we had smokers gone so they could see the wind, because the runway was just exactly right enough to get it down. And when it came down, it was like watching an elevator park. Okay. They're that big and long elevator. And I was shocked. I did not think I would ever see one in person. And I did that day. And it's like, wow. So
yeah, it had a bigger wingspan than the B-52.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't nearly as long. It was short.
It took everything on both sides. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. You know, I'm interrupting myself and Dolly, but Preston and Dolly, I'd like you to introduce yourselves and tell us anything you'd like people to know about your books, your websites, any of your social media, and because I will forget at the end. And Mark will be too polite to interrupt me.
Okay. I'll go first because I have less to say than Preston does.
There you go.
Okay. I'm Dolly Saffron. I'm a conscious contactee. I'm generational as well. I've been having interactions with ETs my entire life. I don't have a website yet, but I do make videos on YouTube. And if you look at Dolly Saffron, when you go on YouTube, just type my name in and I'll show up. And I have tons of video, well, not tons, but video of craft that I know about. And I also have videos that I'm starting to do and a couple of lives. And have a playlist with everything I've done with Preston in it. And you can contact me in Messenger. All you do is look me up, Dolly Saffron, and write to me. And if I'm not your friend, I'll still write back to you. And if you have a question, I most certainly will answer it if I can. And that's it. Go, Preston.
All
Your
right.
turn.
Thanks, Melody. Yeah, I've been involved in this field a really long time. Honestly, it's most of my life now. I got involved in 1986 as a complete skeptic, but heard a report on the news, found out that several family members, friends, co-workers were having really dramatic encounters, not just sightings, but full-on onboard experiences or face-to-face encounters with ETs and a wide variety of paranormal experiences. So that knocked me flat over. It was like being hit by a ton of bricks. It really wasn't good news as far as I was concerned, but now I do, because it really woke me up. And I bought every book I could find on UFOs and ghosts and so forth. Joined MUFON, became a field investigator, started interviewing people formally, and after about 10 years, put out my first book. I do have a website. It's prestondinnett.weebly.com. I've got 30 books out now, 100 articles, and now I'm all over social media. I've got a YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can find my books on Amazon. And that's the short version.
And all your books, I mean, and this is amazing because there are many books, including a couple of mine, that are, 1 in 7,500,000. All of your books are under 1 million. And that's extraordinary. That shows you really do have a loyal following. And your latest book, of course, that I have read, and it's very interesting, and it's doing really well. So
yeah, Symmetry. It is Dolly's story. It did hit #1 under the UFO category, mind you.
Yeah.
Which is a bit different than #1 overall.
True.
But yeah, I'm very thankful that my books are doing well.
You're in the top 100,000. That's amazing. And yeah. Dolly, I'm very glad you brought up that it's Dolly's story, because I didn't want to be forward, but yeah, you do kind of identify her, but it's I think that's just a miraculous account. You have such a way with words, Preston, and Dolly's story is so fascinating that the two together just really meshed. And so
I was
thank
fortunate
you
to find her. Yeah. Well, actually, she found me.
I found Preston. Yeah. It E.T. told me about Preston, and I went looking for him after that. So yeah.
There you go.
The tall grays did. My main contact.
Yeah, I was going to say, who are your main? What breed of ET are you?
It's an ethnicity. They're human like we are. They just look different.
Right.
They have the same human genome. We're related to them, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the tall. I work with the tall grays mainly. I do work with some of what you call the Nordics or the tall whites as well, and then many of the other types, but mostly the grays, tall grays. And Talada is my main contact. He is the being that indwells the craft. The craft are all biological, and they're indwelled by a fifth dimensional non-corporeal entity. They're highly advanced, billions of years ahead of us, and they run the crafts. I work with them in that I was taught how to pilot as well, and I've been flying with them since I was about 19 years old, right after my 19th birthday. And I do gathering the children with them, where we go and make contact with people and make sure they're healthy. We do healings and stuff like that. We just keep an eye on everybody, because there's lots going on in our world right now, and not everybody's okay, and they're keeping up with everybody that way.
Yeah. Well, we have all kinds of stuff going on, but the important thing is we're finally hearing about this stuff. And, we have had, I don't think people are even aware, we've even had intelligence assets in television trying to guide the nomenclature, the the concepts away from the paranormal.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. The media, the governments, it's all been coordinated for a long time, and they've worked very hard to driving the narrative that they're pushing, and it keeps us all in line, and it kind of makes us slaves. And yeah.
Well, the good thing is that that's changing. So
if you want to read anything about media manipulation, Richard Doty has a number of books about that.
He was the original media manipulator, though.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, interesting. Yeah. I live by a rule of thumb. Most of my life, I was guided away from anything in the media. I wasn't really encouraged to watch television or participate in any world event thing. None of it. I was held away from it. And then I was with ET a lot of the time. When I decided that I was going to talk to people, I had to dive in with both feet, and I went into shock. It was 10 times worse than I thought it was going to be. And it's like, you know, the old saying, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave."
Yeah,
this is a big web. it's tangled, and there's all kinds of things out there that are just not okay or true. And people think all kinds of very strange things, and they don't have the scientific foundation to absolutely hear or common sense think their way through what they're hearing. And that was purposeful by them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, that was when I was very young, I started doing what I called at the time channeling. And I was sort of downloaded a lot of information. I've never even told Mark about this. But I pretty early on got the idea that we'd been massively lied to. And, you know, it just starts waking you up when you do have that secondary
sight. Yes. How long have you known you were psychic?
Oh, since my best friend died when I was 8. She came to me afterwards.
Okay, there you go. There's the trigger right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about Jerry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering. Yeah. Well, you're very well developed apparently. Yeah. Because you're telling me things that let me know for a fact that you're very well developed psychically, and that's good. That's what ET wants for everybody. You know.
Yeah. Well, we have to be plugged in.
Right.
If we're not, you know, and of course it comes with some bad things. I knew when both of my grandmothers were going to die, and my aunt and my mother.
It's not terrible though, because you can still be in contact with them, right? You do get messages back and forth. That's the one thing that I learned early, was that just like you're talking about, instead of moaning it and bewailing it, yes, I missed them. Yeah. I wasn't physically with them anymore, but I still had contact. Yeah. And I decided to use that to my advantage, contacting them on a regular basis. And I always knew that they were near and that they did watch over me and everybody else in the family. And so I looked at it as an advantage, I guess is the best way to put that. You know, how many people do you know can talk to somebody on the other side and say, I need help. I need you to help me figure this out and get an answer. You know, that's cool. So that's one of the perks, you know.
Yeah,
I think we need to bring Preston into the conversation.
Yeah. There you go.
He's singing back.
Well, I totally get what you're saying, Melody. It's sometimes hard to know when bad things are going to happen and you have forewarning of it. I've had a lot of precognition and psychic stuff myself, because after I found out UFOs were real, I did start meditating and had a real spiritual awakening and started having a lot of precognitive dreams. And it wasn't always nice things that you were finding out. But I think ultimately it does soften the blow a little bit. It helps you deal with major loss of loved ones, for example. But I talked to a lot of people who've had these experiences, and they will say the same things. It's like, I don't like it. I don't like, knowing that someone close to me is going to die, or that this or that is going to happen.
Well, I had one instance in which, in fact, Mark and I suffered 2 losses 2 years ago. My our younger sister died suddenly, and she. But I didn't know anything about that. I didn't see it coming, and I think I was. My contacts screened that for me, so I wouldn't know it was coming, because if I had interceded, it would have made the whole experience much worse for her.
Oh,
And
wow.
I see that now. But and then 3 weeks later, my dear sister-in-law, my brother's wife, passed away suddenly, and but Mark has had his only real paranormal experiences since Beverly passed. I don't know if you want
several
to share
times.
that.
I never believed in any of that, to be honest with you. But since my wife has died, I've had several incidents where, it had to be her. Let me tell you a real quick story. My grandfather was 86 years old and he caught pneumonia. So we put him in the hospital, and he was just about over it, ready to get out. And I was visiting him. And he told me, he says, it's funny what you dream when you're in a place like this. I said, what do you mean? He says, last night I dreamed that Ruth, that was his wife who had passed on earlier, that her and my brother, who were also gone, came to me and told me it was time to go with them. And he says, I told him, no, I don't want to go. I want to be with the grandkids, and I got stuff to do. So, and he laughed about it. And he wasn't the type he wasn't that type at all. He never talked about things like that. So I left. I said, well, okay. So I made arrangements to pick him up the next day. When I got home, we had got a phone call that he had passed away. His heart had stopped. Okay. So that made me really consider something was going on there.
Yeah, that's unusual, actually. When someone is about to pass away, they are often visited and sometimes told. But your time is coming up.
I think I've always thought perhaps we lost our mother when I was in my teens and Mark was in his 20s. And I have always wondered if my mom didn't come to get him. And that was the difference.
That's possible. That's truly possible. My dad, I knew when my father was going to pass, and he and I made a deal that I wouldn't react negatively, okay? And he and I were in cahoots together because he wanted to talk to everybody he knew. And for about a week before he died, I was making phone calls, putting him on the phone. And he was having a grand old time. He was like, woohoo, we're doing this. And he was preparing himself. He knew it was coming. And I thought, this is hard. And the night before the morning where he did pass, he was up all night long with me. And he talked all night. He would not shut up. And my mom went to bed for a while. She couldn't stay awake anymore with him. And in the morning, I'm an RN, so I was really his hospice nurse, but we had hospice backing me up, and they came in the morning to bathe him and, come behind me and check what I'd done all night. And he wouldn't let me give him any meds. He wanted to be totally conscious when he left. And he was so happy to get the bath. I mean, he was just like, yay, this is great. I'm good. And when they started to leave, I walked in the room and I said, Mom, get in here right now. I saw him starting to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And I let her listen to his heart. I let her hear his last beat. And he had a big old grin on his face. But it was smooth sailing for him. He went, okay?
Yeah.
Later that day, I'm in my room and I'm doing something. I turn around and he's standing right there in the doorway looking at me, grinning. And I said, whoa. I mean, he looked fully formed. I mean, he was all there. Yeah. And he said, I've got to go now. And I said, I thought you left. He says, well, I'm hanging out for a little while, but I'm going to go walk about. That was his way of saying I'm traveling. Right. And I said, cool, And he said, take care of your mother. And I said, I would. And he said, everything we talked about, remember? And I said, right. And he said, I will always be there when it's necessary. And I said, okay. and he was gone.
Yeah.
3 days after he died, my mother needed proof. My mother did not believe, okay? She would waffle, okay? And my dad promised her he would give her a sign. In the back of my house, I had a light that never worked from the day I moved in. There was nothing we could do about it. It was a dead light. And it was 14 degrees below zero, and we had to let all the animals out. And she was standing there. We're both wearing blankets at the doorway. And all of a sudden, that light went on, off, on, off, on, off. And she started screaming and shaking. And she said, that's it, he did it. And I'm like, yes, he did. And it's a sign that's well known to us. And she believed after that. And every time somebody's passing in my family, my father shows up and tells me. The last one for me was my brother. And they took me to the other side, and I saw them all sitting at a long table, grinning at me on the other side of the table. And I saw a place sitting in front of me with a name card on it. I thought, oh, Lord, this is me. You know, I didn't want to look at it first, and now looking down. And I did, and there's my brother's name. It was a full 2 months before he passed. I did not know what to do. I have a sister-in-law, and I didn't know if I should tell her or what, okay? And I tried to tell her, and then I got a phone call the next day that he had COVID. And there was no sense in it at that point. He died February the 13th. It's now 2 years ago. And that really shook me. That one shook me. My father's shown me plenty of other people that were leaving, gave me the information, and I didn't react as wildly as I did because it's my brother.
Right, yeah.
You know?
My sister dying was the same way.
Yeah.
You know.
And,
there's been some studies on this, by the way. I think it's like 80% of people will have a sign of, following the death of a loved one that they are still around. And I remember when my mom passed away, it was absolutely devastating. She was quite young, 49. It was very sudden. Yeah, no real warning.
Oh.
And I did not believe in life after death. So it really tore out the foundation of everything. And was still years later having a hard time with it. She died in 84, and it was in 1991. I had moved out. I was like 26 years old. I was in my new condominium complex, playing my guitar and sort of grieving still.
Right.
And suddenly the light in the living room flickered. And not like flickered, but it turned off and then on. And was at this point reading a lot about these sort of things and really reaching out to her because I was having dreams and out-of-body experiences and so forth. So I'm like, Mom, is that you? Is anybody here? At that moment, my answering machine let out a big, long beep by itself. This is not something you can make it do. I mean, it can't do this. So that was a clear sign. So I jumped up. I'm like, oh, okay, if this is you, here's what I want you to do. And it was a big ask. I mean, can't believe I said this, but I said, if this is really you, I want you to move the brass statues that I have on my toilet. There's these 3 little brass statues of, a turtle and so forth. And they're pretty heavy. And I don't know why I asked that, but I wanted proof. I wanted absolute, undeniable, conclusive proof that she was still around. And it was the next day that I heard this crashing noise. Like, what could that be? And I'm running around the house because this was not possible. This was not someone knocking on the door or anything. This was a crash. I'm like, well, shoot, I can't find anything. And finally, I walked into the bathroom, and all 3 of those brass statues were on the floor.
Wow.
Stupid me, first thing I did is pick them up and put them back on and tried to knock them over myself. I regret not taking a picture and saying, oh my God, look. But no, you could not knock them over even if you were pounding and anything. That was her. I got my proof.
Yeah, I with my sister, I did a similar kind of thing where I said, she had sent me, she showed up on my call log. And her phone had been dead for weeks and not charged, and it wasn't active. And her number shows up. And I said, oh, okay. So I put it down and I said, if that was you, Wait a couple days for somebody to call, and then bring your number up, but I'll tell you when. So a couple days went by. I had other phone calls, other people. The call log didn't have her in it. And I said, okay, now, as God is my witness, I picked up that phone and looked at the call log, and there it was.
Amazing.
That's cool.
To me, that's
Yep,
proof.
undeniable proof, right?
Exactly. And Marcus had a couple of those things happen also. And my sister-in-law likes texting, even from the other side. So he's gotten...
Yeah, I've gotten 2 texts from a phone that doesn't exist anymore. Now, there was nothing in them. They were blank. But just the mere fact that the phone number showed up when the phone literally doesn't exist anymore.
And I spoke with a cell person who handles phones for my own provider. And he told me it's impossible.
Right.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
And
well, consciousness is electricity. It's light. Okay.
Right.
And it's generally that which can run on electricity in our situation here can be influenced by them electrically. They can summon up enough energy to tap or do what they want. And it's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, the guy from AT&T told me that phone numbers are stored for 5 years after someone gives up the number. And my wife hasn't been gone for 5 years.
Right.
So
she's still using it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Okay, got a call.
That happened to my dad too, actually. Yeah, my dad, after he passed away, his girlfriend called him, or called me, I should say, and said, I just want you to know I got a sign from your dad. His phone number came up just yesterday on my phone. I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
That's very common. I hear that all the time. And in fact, it's more unusual that people don't get some kind of sign.
Well, that's the point. You know, if you're able to use your abilities like you're supposed to, you see and hear things beyond what you're able to, just not, in the body, not using your ability. And the whole world will open up to you. You'll see sights and sounds and hear things. All your senses amplify. It's really very cool. So.
It's amazing. And I remember, it's been a number of years now, but I went to Stonehenge.
Ooh.
And and I came up over, and of course, our family is largely English and Irish and Scottish, And we were, we came up over the rise to where you see it. And as it started to rise up, that's what it looked like. It just hits you like, and they now are, they are positing that this was a something like the pyramids in Egypt and some of the other sites. An energy conduit, and and there we are. It's that if you're open to that energy, it'll hit you.
Right, exactly.
And it can be spooky, but it's also, strengthening and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Preston, have you noticed your own psychic abilities? I know we discussed the ESP app and your ability with that. Have you found your own sensibilities enlivened through your meeting with Dolly and
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely that's 100% true. I had a lot of astral projection experiences, and often I would go to meet like family members, my brothers and sisters, and they couldn't see me, while they're in the body, or even I would meet them out on the other side when they're astral projecting, and they don't know it. And they're like, I won't remember this. I'm like, how could you not remember this? I mean, I'll remember it. I would do everything to get them to remember, go back to my body, and of course they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Quite frustrating. And you start to feel like a ghost and almost question the validity of your experience. So I did this to Dolly. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to visit her. I'm going to visit her astral projecting out of body. I was in California. She's in Florida, right? And so I popped over there, and this is not hard to do once you learn how to do astral projecting. You just concentrate on a person, and you can get to them pretty easily if you know that, certainly. And I did, and I popped out in her house and saw her. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And I walked, standing there, and she comes in through the doorway, and I can see she's got her she's talking on the phone. She's got the phone up to her ear, and I'm looking at her and wondering if she can see me, not even thinking she could, but suddenly she whirls around and her hair goes whoosh, and she looks right at me in the eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think she can see me. And she could. And she says, well, this is what I thought she said. She says, I can't talk now. I am being robbed. And I thought, oh no. And strong emotion will pull you right back into your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sure did. And I woke up thinking, well, I don't know. Maybe I imagined that. I don't think so. We were talking every day at that point because, I'm doing interviews for the book and so forth. And she calls me up and she starts talking. And I'm like, well, if she was robbed, I think that would be the first thing she would say. So it must be wrong because she didn't mention it. And she was a few sentences in when she said, oh, by the way, I saw you last night. You came over to my house, didn't you? And I'm like, yeah, I did. You saw me? She's like, yeah. And Dolly will confirm this. And I said, what did you say? Because, I heard you say something, and I didn't want to tell her because I like confirmation. And she says, oh, well, I saw you. I was on the phone. It was the middle of the night. And I saw you, and I said, I can't talk now. I'm on the phone with Rob. I'm like, oh, okay. Rob, I get it now because I heard you say Rob, and I thought robbed.
Yeah.
I do mediumship work every now and then, and there's this young man that I've always helped, and he called me at 3:30 in the morning, and I said, what do you need? And he said, I need to talk to you right now. I need to talk to you right now. And I'm like, okay. And he's blurting everything out. And I whirl around and I look, and Preston's right there. And I freaked out because he didn't look like he does now. He looked young. He had big long hair on him, buff. And I'm like, wow, in my head. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And I said, I can't talk to you right now. I'm on the phone with Rob. And he was just gone after that. And when I called him the next day, I was thinking maybe he doesn't remember. Maybe he was dreaming. And I was waiting for him to bring it up first. He didn't. So I had to. And then he said, yes, And that's how we figured it out. So, and then I paid him back. I waited about a week. And I went over to his house. It was nighttime. He was in bed. And I was like, hey, woohoo. And he's like, oh, he was shocked. So, yeah. One time I couldn't get his attention and I stomped his floor real hard. He heard that. And go back and forth. I've taken him places too. I realized that he can hear me. Not everybody hears everybody when you're astral projecting. That is a thing. And I'm not sure. I have no clue other than what I think. And for what it's worth, I think you have to be somewhere on the same psychic level, ability, vibrational level, whatever, for you to hear the other person. Yeah, now, I can hear anybody, but I've learned from my experiences my whole life, and I've I operate that way. I can hear you think, but not everybody else can. I've learned that, and it takes a while to develop a rapport. So yeah.
No,
And
Dolly,
also, yeah.
what do you think of Dr. Stephen Greer? Well, because he talks about using ESP to contact the aliens. Do you,
yes.
Do you
uses
think
meditation,
there's anything to that?
and he uses a tantric ability technique where they chant and they use your ability to lift yourself, like a remote view. You leave your mind and you go up as high as they are and you call to them, and then they should hear you, and then they'll come down and show themselves. He is very good at that. He's very good at Eastern philosophy and the meditative stuff. I think that he has a lot going on, and I watch him and back and forth, and sometimes I'm alarmed and sometimes I'm questioning, but he does have something going on really big, and we all just need to stay calm. And
so whenever I talk to
our
somebody
minds
about,
straight.
I'm sorry. Whenever I talk to people about UFOs, I always like to talk about 3 particular people, and I talked to Preston about it last time we spoke to Preston.
Okay.
How about Luis Elizondo? What do you think of him?
No comment.
Yeah, I don't
not going
like
to talk
him.
about it. No,
I don't like him very much. There.
Yeah,
I think he's leading us down a bad path. Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar has impressed me a lot because his reporting on what happened to him and what he saw and how he understands it from a physicist's perspective, what he learned for himself from the craft that he saw is dead on. He knows what he's talking about. And I applaud his ability, to figure it out. There are a couple things that I think he's a little sketchy on, but it's nothing, okay? He is telling the truth. I can read your mind, and there's no falsehood about him at all. And
yeah, I've always thought highly
about everything. Yeah,
I've always thought highly of him. George Knapp also. Yes. If it wasn't for George Knapp, a lot of this UFO stuff would have never become public.
Right. Bob Lazar is like a shining star of intelligence. Okay. And he just wanted to jump in and with both feet, and he did from early childhood. Okay. And he's excited about what he does, and he loves science and physics, which everybody should actually. And it makes you innocent in a way because he got used and then abused by these people. And now that's a real hard thing to do. And it's like, I understand that. I've been in a position to be not as horrifically abused as he's been by them, but I've been taunted and tracked. And I can't even imagine what he's gone through with this. And he stood up to all of it. I applaud that in him. And steadfastly, you can't, there are not a lot of people who can hold up to the truth like that without cracking, not because they're lying, but because the truth is important. But if you're battered all the time, you can be battered into submission, and he never was. So I applaud that in him. I'm very, very respectful, and I applaud him. I do.
You can tell the media's up to something because they all support Stephen Greer. They support Luis Elizondo. Richard Doty gets support, but they all bash Bob Lazar constantly.
Yeah. There's a huge truth out there, okay? And if you read the book, you know what that truth is, that I stated quite clearly. The science backs me up. There are NASA people who we won't name because it would hurt them, who are reporting the truth. There are people who are flat out geniuses and educated and know the truth and are reporting on it. And there are physicists who don't take government money to fund them, and they're free to say what they want. And they're reporting it as well. It's all around us. If you just keep watching things and looking for yourself and try to learn the science a little bit, and there's ways to do that, you'll know that we're heading into a big, big deal. And
I had someone the other day question me regarding I made a I love Jacques Vallée and his writing.
Okay.
And I made a remark about something he had said, and they were all into their, their debunkerism. And I leaned forward and I said, "You do know he's a physicist."
Correct.
Well,
yeah.
Yes. And then
early on, Jacques Vallée, he was fully into everything. Preston, please correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. And he was on board with all of this and knew it was going on and was reporting it correctly. And then he started to waffle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so I don't know what to think about that.
Well, he didn't waffle enough because they murdered him.
No, Jacques Vallée.
Isn't he the one that got hit and run? They killed him?
No, that's John Mack.
Yeah, that's John Mack.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, John
I'm still learning about all these guys.
For some reason, I confuse the two of them all the time.
Well, they're both superstars in this field, yeah. Jacques Vallée is definitely a pioneer. I mean, he really has done a lot of really good work.
He has tried to. He knows so much that his life, I think, is probably constantly in danger.
Well, that's the point. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if they think you're a threat to their narrative, they're going to come after you. That is a fact. Yeah. And they'll use any tactic to turn you to their narrative or wipe you out. Take your pick. And
I call them the Cornell boys. The Sagan, Bill Nye.
Yeah.
Well, Sagan couldn't help it. They threatened his family.
Yeah,
exactly. Sagan, I want to say this outright, okay? I know something about Sagan that y'all probably don't know about him. He was brilliant, and he had ways of thwarting them in his what he did and how he did it. And when he got his hands into the program where they put the disc on Voyager and all the information from us, he put encoded stuff in there that left no doubt to anybody who understands what was going on that he knew who they were. He was putting a message out to them, and he wasn't going to tell anybody here or let them thwart him from doing it. And he did it. And miracle of miracles, they answered him back. Whether they let you know about that is another story, but
they did.
So, yes.
They came to the kids. Right. And the amazing thing about Sagan, and to go back on my thwarting his issues, he actually went down to see an old, I guess you'd call him a friend, Terence McKenna, who was an ethnobotanist. I believe that's the term they used. And he was a shaman, and he had conducted shamanic rituals, and Sagan went down there to participate in that. So I think toward the end of his life, he was fully involved in the fact that other things were going on.
Yeah, I have you want to know what I know for a fact? I know that almost everything that you hear is either provable or debunking. Okay. Each one of us have the ability to prove or disprove things. The hardest things to disprove are gossip and hearsay. They're not traceable because they go back, and there's too many corners being turned, too many doors opening and shutting. It's just almost impossible. And what happens is, over time, those things become immensely huge in the minds of everybody who hears them. And it clouds their ability to see or hear or debunk who's lying and who's not. That's why your intuition plays into this, because your intuition, if you're wide open and your psyche using it, you can hear the lie versus the, doo-doo. It is so involved now that when I hear it, I freak out because Preston will tell you, he's had some calls with me where I'm just like, help me. I get freaked out. There are stories out there that are so wrong. And there's so many of them. And there are people now who are spinning these wild yarns. And it's incredible. And it's hurting us here because it's hard to coordinate the truth and send it out as truth when there's so many other things batting back at it and trying to prove it wrong.
Yeah,
I call the government. Go ahead.
If you get involved in this field, you'll learn pretty quick that you are going to be attacked. I've been called every name in the book. And sometimes it's, people are quite vicious about it. Yeah. And I think if you want to ferret out the truth, what you do is you look for the people who are being attacked, like Bob Lazar, who really had nothing to gain by going forward and a lot to lose. And we're not going to find the answers from our own governments. That's quite clear. And I always say this, what we know about extraterrestrials and what it's like to be contacted by them and who they are is not coming from the government.
Right.
It's not really even coming from a lot of researchers out there who are what I call shoe fitting and cherry picking, putting forth their theories first and the evidence second, which is not how you do science. If you want to find the answers, it comes from those who are having contact. People like Dolly.
Well, that's always been the case. The problem with, especially when we're dealing with the media,
10 more minutes.
the media people who are driving the narrative.
I want to bring something up. I was counseled recently about this by my contact, and he wants me to talk. And you guys are great, and I'm going to let it out through you. Okay. One of the things that I have guarded, tremendously guarded, is letting names out of places, people, places, or things. And there's a reason for that, because a name has authority. The name of a place has authority. A thing has authority if you name what it is. That's to us in our generation, on our planet, that's how we value things. And it is a tricky business. And when you're telling the truth about things, you can only tell the truth from yourself. Right. You're the only one who can defend what you say. Okay. So Talata, my contact, is a nickname that I gave him. I will not divulge his whole name. I never will. Until you all are clearly able to hear him talk, you're not going to know his name, and he will have to be the one to tell you. Mama, I will never tell you her name. I will never tell you the name that they give their world where they live. I've given some hints about the language, and that's because they have roots in our world, and I was told I could, but they're just words. The reason I do this is because everybody else is naming everything with authority, and nope. Unless you have personal experience, you have personal firsthand knowledge, your own authority, you can't speak to anything. And it would be dangerous for me to do that because others could pick up what I'm saying and add authority to it with no permission from me. And this is happening now. And it's a big deal. And I want everybody to think about that. I want you to hear what people say to you and say, how do you know this person's name for real? Where did you hear that? And you start backtracking, tracing where they're getting this stuff. And you'll find out that it's gossip, hearsay, and nonsense. And there's no foundation for it at all. I'm my own foundation. My experience is a foundation. And I'm very careful about that. And my advice to everybody is take what I say with a grain of salt and go prove it for yourself.
I always say a boulder of salt.
Right. You can't know anything except through your own experience.
Exactly.
And
now, I'd like to make. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say one thing. How I got into UFOs when I was a kid was through a book called Flying Saucers Top Secret, and it was by Major Donald Kehoe, who was at one time the director of Project Blue Book. And he was really the first mainstream military person to come out and reveal that, there was something there, that it wasn't all swamp gas and, mirrors, that there was something there. Have you guys ever seen the Mike Wallace interview that they did on 60 Minutes with Major Kehoe? Yeah, that's very interesting.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Preston probably has. Yes.
I love Donald Kehoe. This field would not be where it is today without him. Yeah, he stood alone. And again, at great personal risk, great professional risk, and stuck to his guns and basically proved that there is a cover-up and that our governments, our military is not telling the truth about this. All of his books are required reading for anyone who's truly interested in this field.
Like I say, the Flag Saucer Top Secret is the one that got me going.
There's so many. There's a small group, but there are a lot of smaller players who have held their ground against a lot of scrutiny and a lot of abuse over the years. And Donald Kehoe is one of them. Bob Lazar is another. I'd like to put a good word in for Whitley Strieber.
Yes.
Who was attacked viciously by the media.
Absolutely.
And
Whitley's a great guy, and he's as honest as the day is long, and he's been through a lot in
well, that's why I think that the mainstream media has brought this Luis Elizondo out there. He's their person to make statements that how they want them said. He pretends to be a UFO believer, but I don't think he is. I think he's just a mouthpiece for the government, is what I think.
Can I tell you a secret? This is a good secret to know. Don't worry about what all those people are saying. They're misdirecting you 100%. It's smoke and mirrors, politically, all of it. If you depend on them to tell you what you should be able to figure out for yourself, you're already in trouble. You're already too much of a slave to what they say. Don't be. Free yourself from that negativity, because that's all it is. And it influences you in ways that you don't want to have happen to you. You can't use your ability fully if you're not able to block that out anyway. So just give it up. Don't worry about what they say. They're not going to tell you the truth.
You can ask Melody. I never watch the news.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't want to hear anything the media has to say because I don't believe in it.
Yeah, you can tell when the prices are going up because you see it start happening, and you're able to cognitively say, okay, this is happening. You're able to tell when your taxes are going up, that they're taking money from you, and what the hell are they doing with it? They can't explain anything.
Well, it's all being manipulated to destroy the middle class.
We don't have to hear them talk. All you have to do is download the books. You have access to their information. They have to. And I'm not even sure that's accurate anymore, to be honest with you. But you have an idea what the debt is, okay? Where's it all going? This could have fed everybody 10 times over. What are you doing? This should let you know that there are things going on around you that you need to be prepared for. We're watched all of our, where are you going to get meat from and chicken from this year? Where are you going to get food from this year? I guarantee you there are things happening. You can hear things in the newspaper. They'll blurb things like the farmers are concerned. They create GMO crops. And now South America went, no more. Don't want them. They know they're bad. Farmers have tooled to do only GMO farming, and now they're screwed because they don't have the money or the resources to go back the other way to produce regular crops. Yeah, there's another problem. The nitrates that they use to farm, guess where they're at? Guess where? Where are we at war, or Russia at war? Who's at war? Every nitrate we get in bulk comes from that country.
Yeah.
And Russia, as a matter of fact. How are the farmers going to farm this year? You think there's going to be some starvation going on? You bet. Our supply trains are disappearing. Railroad tracks are being blown up. Pipelines are being blown up. I mean, think about it. Critically think about it. What do you think's happening around you? If your infrastructure starts to disappear, where are you going to be left? What's going to happen?
There's certainly things
happening. So nobody has to tell you that they're up to something, and we're the end of the line for them. Okay.
The good thing is we have factors protecting us.
Well, let's just hope they never take the internet away from us, because that's the only place anybody is hearing anything.
I know. I want you to be blunt. Spiritually, you can be protected. You live forever, okay?
Yeah.
Your consciousness never dies, but the body that you're in can and will.
Oh, sure.
We
And
live in a
will.
third-degree gravity-heavy construct. The entire universe is made this way. And if somebody decides they're going to take you out and plans it, trust me, there's no saving you from that. None.
Oh, I
So
agree.
you have to think about how you're going to react to it. That's the most important thing. Always remember, react from what you need to do, most important. And there are 3 levels of that. 1, take care of yourself. Be healthy, because you can't help anybody if you're not healthy. The second one is be prepared for anything. People have been so used to being mollycoddled and having everything given to them that they have no idea what it means to sustain their life without the aid of everybody else. And that means
exactly.
services, all that stuff. And the
Preston,
third one
you got
is
anything?
decide,
I'm sorry.
decide how you want to live your life in joy, because that's the most important lesson we all have to learn here anyway. We're here to learn, and you can't do that if you're afraid. You can't do that if you're confused. You can't do it if you're panicking. Live in joy. It'll help you see things clearly.
Yeah, I agree.
We're gonna have to wrap up. So,
I
Preston,
know.
do you have
On that
anything to
note.
say?
I would underline what Dolly's saying, and I like what you said, Mark. You know, the media is not the place to look for answers. If you want to, don't listen to what people are saying. Look at what's going on. That would be my advice.
Inside. Look inside yourself.
Right.
Feel your heart, and that's the important thing.
That's where you are. That's right.
And I want to thank you both for being with us.
You're very welcome.
Came in at the last minute.
Thank you. And I was glad that I got the message. Preston's like, have you not, I've been weirded out because I'm doing all kinds of stuff this week. He says, have you not spoken to her? And I was like, And I went looking for you. My messenger rolls everybody up, and you were down at the bottom of the heap. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's life.
So I'm sorry.
All right.
We'll have to have you guys back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We hope you'll want to come back.
Yes.
And watch our show. Watch our show next week. We have one of the stars of a old sci-fi show on.
Land of the Giants. Yes.
Yep.
Stephen
one of the stars of Land of the Giants.
Wow. Okay.
We
cool. I'll
will
watch. Okay.
talk to you both soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.